I would say it's clock time, but today it's also story time. Specifically, a story I wrote when I was 15 years old, or something like that. And it is called The Iceman, a Legend Reborn.
Ah, that's always a good title.
Yeah, the subtitle is A Pretty Bad Story. So, I wasn't very confident in it at the time. I think it might not be great from like a narrative point of view. Like if you were to give this book a review in comparison to other actual stories that people have written and sold that you can find at Barnes & Noble, it's not going to be good. But it should be very entertaining. There's 10 chapters. And each of those chapters is like a page long, if that. They're very short. So it shouldn't be too long. I want to give you a little bit of context, though, for who the Iceman is. Why was I writing a story called The Iceman? Back when I was 8, I think, I got into a theme of Legos called Lego Bionicle. I assume most people know about the Lego Bionicle. They're pretty big. One of them was called Strack. S-T-R-A-K-K? I don't know, something like that. And when my uncle Bobby saw him in my house, he said, or he didn't say anything, but he wrote a story to me about him called The Iceman, where I don't remember what happened, but essentially my uncle was the one who came up with the character. Then after he came up with them, he and I would write back and forth to each other stories about the Iceman. And we did that for a while, but then we stopped. And many years after we stopped, I wrote this story just for fun. I think I did eventually give it to him, but I don't remember what he said about it. But we're going to read it today. I've got Travis here with me to react to it. I guess I should say, I am ambitious. No, you're ambitious. Who's ambitious? Everyone is.
Everybody's ambitious.
I am aspiring artist Phill Frost, aka the Story Senior. And I'm joined by Travis Crouton, the ambitious angler, and the
expert listener. I am the listener.
Yes, he's the listener.
I am the listener. I hear all things.
That's good. So we're going to start out with the first chapter, as you do with stories. Chapter 1, A Team is Made. I'm assuming a team is going to be created. On his birthday, Uncle Bobby decided to spend time with his nephew Phill and his favorite person in the world, Travis. They were all eating some crazy foreign cake and drinking V8. They were also watching The Breakfast Club because they thought it was a work of legends. Their merriment didn't last long, however, because a loud banging began at the door. "Come on, man! Who's interrupting my favorite part of The Breakfast Club?" yelled Travis. Bobby started to get up and answer the door, but before he could, it flung open to reveal none other than Bryce Patterson. I like how I changed his first name, but not his last. This is a real person that we know, who for confidentiality I changed his first name, but his last is the same. That's very funny. Bryce? What are you doing here? Screamed Phill. Bryce said, "Man, my dog Rome got his hair caught in a fan again." And I said, "Hey, why not go see what Phil's doing?" Phill, Trav, and Bobby all looked extremely confused. They had no idea how Bryce coming over solved his dog's problem at all. Bobby was about to ask Bryce to leave, but once again he was interrupted. Travis's Uncle Jojo came barging through the doorway. "What, Jojo? How did you know we were here?" asked Travis. Jojo thought about the question and replied, "Lucky guess." A few minutes later, the five of them were sitting down at a table together, talking about random stuff. Jojo decided to take this time to bring up a topic he had recently become aware of: the Iceman. The four others looked at him, not sure what to think. Jojo explained, "The Iceman is a legend from ancient Minnesota. He was first spotted shooting gold-spiked orbs at civilians. Later, he was found trapping people inside refrigerators. Since then, he hasn't been seen for 74 years. But now, he has resurfaced in the U.S. There was even a sighting of him in Greenville yesterday at 6:26 p.m. Everyone looked curious, yet skeptical. Jojo, realizing he needed proof, pulled out a picture he took of the Iceman yesterday. It was slightly blurry, but you could tell it was a creature, and a weird one at that. "What's he doing in that picture?" asked Travis. "Freezing a tree," said Jojo. Bryce was unimpressed by this answer. "Why is this idiot freezing a tree?" he asked. "Beats me," Jojo replied. Bryce walked out of the house. Hours passed. Jojo and Bobby got to know each other better after all the Iceman nonsense. Meanwhile, Phill and Travis played some Minecraft, which Bobby thought was garbage. Suddenly, Bryce came back inside. He arrived with a large gym bag full of stuff. "What's in the bag?" Jojo asked. "Items," Bryce said. Phill looked at him, as if to say, "Really?" Bryce took the hint and said, "Okay, they're weapons. We're finding this Iceman guy." At first, everyone thought the idea was crazy. But then, after they exchanged some looks, they were on board.
Wow.
And so, the team was assembled. Bobby was the leader, with an axe. Phill was the planner, with a bow. That's how I plan things. Travis was the bodyguard, with a sword. Bryce was the sharpshooter, with dual pistols. He seems way more decked out than us. And Jojo was the tracker, with a rifle. So two of us have guns. We're just going to be walking through the city with guns. That doesn't seem like a great idea.
Sword. A giant axe.
That's chapter 1. So
A bow. It's the Fellowship of the Ring.
it is, yeah. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, but the cause is a lot more questionable.
Gotta go hunt this Iceman.
So the next chapter is called Town Hall Terrorized. Guess we're going to a town hall. Yeah, I want to remind everyone listening, or I guess not remind, I haven't told you at all. I haven't read this story in many years, so I don't remember most of it either. That's why it's funny for me to read now. The team arrived in Greenville and immediately heard a scream. It was coming from the streets. Bobby and his team ran along the sidewalk until they saw him, and it really was him, the Iceman. He took a car, picked it up, and flung it over a building. Then he went charging towards Town Hall. Inside, one of Phil's teachers, Jake Sparks, was talking to a group of his students about some government jargon. In this group was Phil's friends, Trevor, Devin, Parker, Gibby, Edward, and Esteban. None of these people are really my friends. These are some random names. Trevor and Parker had pretty much every class with Phill, and they were very smart. Devin, on the other hand, was a loaded gun. You never knew what he was going to say or do, but whatever it was going to be dumb. Roasting Devin. Gibby and Esteban were pretty much the same person, except that Esteban was quieter and very shy. And Edward was, well, Edward. I like how that comment tells you absolutely nothing. The Iceman began to climb up the building, with Jake and his group being blissfully unaware. Phill ran in and warned everyone, but no one in the group believed him. "Dodge!" yelled Edward. I don't know what that means. Edward just yells dodge. "Sounds pretty dank, Phill," said Trevor. These people are... Why? I think I made their dialogue intentionally awful. Jake was the most confused of all the people. He tried to think of a witty response, but was cut short when the Iceman crashed through the ceiling.
How did he get up there?
Devin screamed like a girl. The rest of Bobby's team heard and came running inside. The Iceman had ripped a lamppost out of the ground and was swinging it around the building like a club. He swung at Jake. Bobby and Travis blocked it with their weapons. That's impressive. They blocked a lamppost. This made the Iceman even more angry, so he threw the lamppost at Trevor and Parker. Phill ran and got them out of the way, then shot his bow at the Iceman's face. This annoyed him, but was ineffective. Bryce and JoJo tried shooting at him, but the bullets just absorbed into his body.
What?
How do we beat this thing? Phill yelled. I don't know, Bryce screamed as he got the rest of Jake's group out of the building. The Iceman froze JoJo to the wall. The fight seemed hopeless.
JoJo, no.
The Iceman wasn't taking damage. And that's the end of chapter 2. Sounds like, for one, this is the most successful anyone's been trying to find like a mysterious creature. We found the dude instantly. We just walked outside. He was there.
It said we were in Greenville and we heard screams coming from the street. Where were we at? We were not in the street. We were just up here in a building.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Jake and his class didn't believe that an Iceman was there, considering there were screams in the streets.
Over the building. I mean, what happened to the car? It would have exploded, getting thrown over a building.
Yeah, it's not good. we don't know whose car that was or what happened to it. It might have destroyed a building. Chapter 3 is called Jake and Josh. The good old Drake and Josh off-brand. Oh, somebody's driving by the house. You might have been able to hear it. Jake was outside with his group, except for Trevor and Parker, who were still in the town hall.
But Bryce said he got everybody up.
Bryce lied. What is happening? Gibby asked, looking really weirded out. Jake kept looking back and forth between his group and the building, when suddenly he had a plan. He whipped down his phone and dialed a number. What you doing? Asked Devin. Jake smiled. I'm calling Josh. I like how we're supposed to know what that means. Josh was another one of Phil's teachers, as well as Jake's best friend. Josh's dad was experienced in combat, so Jake knew he could help. It didn't take long for Josh to pull up in his big white truck with a faulty car alarm that goes off every half hour.
Very specific.
Yeah, I love how oddly specific that is. What did you bring? Asked Jake. Josh laughed. Are you kidding? You said there was an Iceman. I brought a flamethrower. Why does he have that? Jake and his group looked pleased. Back inside the town hall, Phill and Travis were busy trying to get JoJo out of the ice.
What about Iceman?
He's done. Yeah, I guess he's bored now. Josh stepped in the building. He saw the Iceman hanging from the ceiling, and he didn't care. He just pulled out his flamethrower. Bryce spotted it. He'd never seen a flamethrower before. He wanted to use it.
Oh no.
He ran over to Josh and tried to grab it from his hands. What are you doing, kid? Trying to save you here, Josh yelled. Bryce didn't care. He wanted it. He grabbed it and ran with it until he tripped on an ice shard. The Iceman took this opportunity to smash the flamethrower into pieces with his huge foot. Josh scowled at Bryce. Bryce was just lying there motionless. Is he alive? After a few minutes, Jake came into the building. Hey, what happened? Why isn't the Iceman melted? He asked. Josh pointed to the smashed flamethrower on the ground. Phill and Travis finally managed to get JoJo onto the ice. JoJo was mad now. He ran over to Josh. You got anything else in your car that we can use to kill that thing? Josh asked. Josh shook his head. JoJo desperately tried to think of something. Eventually, he suggested that, for now, he and the others should lead everyone to a safe place and come up with a better plan. And that's what they did. That's the end of that chapter. So we just left. We're like, the Iceman, he destroyed this place. Let's go. Gotta come up with a plan.
We gotta come up with a plan. Phil's the planner. What?
Yeah, I'm the planner.
He ain't done nothing.
My role means nothing. All I've done was shot Iceman in the face, which I don't think was a plan. I just did it. Okay, chapter 4 is called An Abundance of Ideas. So I guess we're going to have lots of plans. Bobby, Phill, Travis, Bryce, JoJo, Jake, and Josh all sat down at a large table to come up with a plan. Wait, what happened to Parker and Trevor? It said they were still in the building in the last chapter. Are they still there? Are they just dead? No one got them out? They're not here either, so that's not good. No, wait, they are here. I see later in the chapter that they're here. Where did they come from? Okay, anyway, everyone's here. As for the other kids, they just stood around and talked about how crazy the situation was. Edward thought it was stupid, how none of them tried to do anything to help. Devin, however, was just surprised they weren't all dead. Trevor and Parker were still shocked that they weren't impaled. I'm shocked that they're here. The lamppost came so close to stabbing them. Esteban had no comment. Every person at the table had a different idea of how to stop the Iceman. JoJo said they should go to the woods, build a huge campfire out of fallen trees, and have the kids lead the Iceman to it, causing him to melt. Most of the others were fine with this, except that it put children's lives in danger. That's fine. Jake, hearing the word children in danger in the same sentence, suddenly felt he should call the parents of the kids in his group, so they wouldn't worry. He stood up and walked outside to start calling. Meanwhile, Bryce decided they should all use their money to buy as many grenades as possible and blow up the Iceman.
What? They're gonna blow up the town?
Everyone else thought that plan was too pricey and dumb. Phill and Travis suggested a much simpler plan. Just get another flamethrower and don't let Bryce touch it this time. Josh disagreed, as he felt that as big as the Iceman was, the flamethrower would not be strong enough anyway.
What boy?
He said they should just go with JoJo's plan and substitute the children with Bryce, because he really didn't like Bryce.
Oh no.
Of course, Bryce didn't like that idea. Bobby said they should lure the Iceman to an old building and burn it down.
Arson.
Everyone thought this plan was reasonable. But they needed a way to lure the Iceman. Jake came back inside and volunteered to do it. So, the plan was made. That's the plan. We're going to commit arson. Okay. Now, most of these chapter names thus far have been pretty mundane. Just kind of like, we're coming up with a plan. Oh, we're making a team. Chapter 5 has an interesting name. It's called The Slyest Guy in South Carolina. Slyest. The Slyest Guy. Okay. During the time of Bobby's birthday, something else was going on in Greenville, where the Iceman was. Sorry, the sentence was written, I think there's a typo somewhere. In Greenville, South Carolina, a bunch of political campaigns were happening. Right in the middle of Greenville was a campaign for hopeful candidate Sly Sam, who was boasting about being the slyest guy in the South Carolina primary. Little did he know, the Iceman was going to wreck his chances and his campaign building. The Iceman came crashing through the door, sending bricks and furniture flying. Now, little did the Iceman know that right behind him was Bobby and his team, plus Jake, Josh, and some random kids.
Oh, those guys are just not important.
They don't get named. Jake ran in front of everyone to get the Iceman's attention. The Iceman saw him, but instead of chasing him, froze him to the ground. Well, there went the plan. Sly Sam was so confounded by what he was seeing. He suggested that his followers pray like mad and hope to live another day. Before they had the chance, their chairs were flung from underneath them. Some of the people flew into a wall. Josh decided to go to desperate measures and lit a match. He threw it on the ground. He's gonna burn us all alive. Bobby and his team were appalled. What if the people caught on fire? Phill and Travis tried to get all the people to safety. The Iceman, disliking the heat, ran out of the building. Everyone else ran out behind him as the building's foundation began to collapse. One of the Sly Guy campaign signs burnt to a crisp. Another fell and landed on a parked police car on the side of the road. The Iceman charged into a nearby wooded area, trying to find shade. The crowd just stared into the distance, still in disbelief. Sly Sam got into a limo and rode off before any more damage was done.
So the moral of that story is Iceman was successful. He
Yeah.
did destroy the building.
Yeah, he destroyed it by getting us to do it. We burned it down. We wanted to commit arson to kill him. Instead, we committed arson to not do anything. We made it worse. Because the reason he threw the match on the ground was because he was worried about people getting hurt by the Iceman. But then you're making people get hurt by getting burned alive. So you're not solving any problem. I don't really get that one.
Don't worry, guys. I'll save you from being frozen.
Yeah, you can't freeze if you're on fire. Chapter 6 is where this story takes like a weird, sad turn. Because it talks about the Iceman and his sad life. It's called The Iceman's Struggles. The Iceman, while causing destruction, was completely unaware of what was really happening. He got deep into the woods and found a large cave. He crawled inside and decided to lie down. His mindset was different from that of reality. Being made of ice and not being able to understand the language of anyone makes it really hard to understand what's going on. Day after day, the sun slowly melts away at the Iceman. He tries hiding in buildings, but is always screamed at and attacked by humans. He's rejected by society and forced to be killed slowly by the heat. When he was young, the Iceman saw the sun as his arch enemy. He would grab small trees or large branches and climb up mountains. When he would get to the top, he would always be disappointed that he was not yet high enough to reach the sun. He wanted to reach it and kill it before it could kill him. In older age, the Iceman grew to realize he would never be high enough to reach the sun. It was just too high. It was invincible, and he was not. Hiding was his only chance, and he couldn't even do that. The forest was his best chance at survival, but even the creatures seemed to hate him. They would either run at the sight of him, or fight him for their territory. Safety for the Iceman was impossible. It's clock time. He would die at the fate of the sun. It was just a question of how long until it happened. If only the humans could understand, maybe they would let him hide in one of their buildings. But then again, with his strange and horrific appearance, acceptance was, too, impossible. So yeah, now it just makes you feel bad for the Iceman. He's blowing up buildings, but apparently it's because he gets attacked first. If that's the case, why'd he throw the car? Speaking of weird names, Chapter 7 is called Neptune Brain. So,
What does that mean?
I guess we'll find out. For years, people have been asking the question, Iceman, real or myth? One of the people asking this question was JoJo's friend from North Carolina, whose name was Aaron. Aaron was a hunter, and also a conspiracy theorist. He had a lot of unpopular, barely acknowledged blogs on the internet. However, one of them got a good bit of attention, his blog about the Iceman. Aaron was the first to post something regarding this strange freak of nature. He and some of his fans online began to theorize about exactly what the Iceman was. One person with the username IceBro26 speculated that he was a rogue snowman who came to life when a hat was placed on his head. Others hoped that he was joking and didn't actually believe in such garbage. However, that sounded pretty realistic compared to other theories on the website. One theory was that he was a popsicle, infused with the soul of a deceased psychological patient who was unhappy with how he was treated in the mental hospital before his death. Another theory involved Jack Frost fusing with Shrek to create a crazy ice giant.
What, boy?
Despite the craziness of these ideas, The worst was posted by AaronFan420, who believed that the Iceman was actually a Martian from the cold planet of Neptune, who had been there so long that his body was completely frozen in a layer of eternal ice. It would never melt and could never be broken. When he arrived on Earth, a homeless man commented that he was the cause of global warming, which made him angry and hate humans. Since then, he spent his life plotting how to end the human race, using his unnaturally intelligent Neptune brain. The ridiculousness of this comment and the other comments on the blogs were only matched by its gallery of photos. Every single picture claimed to be the Iceman, for real, but none of them were. One picture portrayed a blue action figure with its head replaced by an ice cube. Another was a Lego minifigure covered in snow. The worst of all, though, was a picture of Billy Ray Cyrus with the Illuminati symbol pasted on his face. The entire image was colored blue and white.
This is the Iceman. Whoa. Okay.
Could be. Aaron soon realized his blog was going nowhere and shut it down, but the Iceman would still get publicity on other websites. More realistic stories and pictures began to appear on Google and Wikipedia. While fairly unreliable, they were very compelling and rather believable. Wait, they're unreliable but also believable. That's interesting. The Iceman may have never been as big as Bigfoot, but he was still recognized as an important myth on the internet, and certainly caught JoJo's attention. That's chapter 7. I gotta say, that chapter is pretty nice. I like how it really leaned into how stupid this story already is, and just took it as far as it could. Billy Ray Cyrus. Why is he here? Chapter 8 is called A Trek Through the Woods. So I guess we're going into the woods. Bobby, his team, Josh, Jake's group, and the random Sly Sam followers were still standing outside of the burning campaign building. Jake and Josh offered to explain what happened to the police and the firemen. As for Bobby and his team, they were headed into the woods, in hopes of finding the Iceman. Trevor, Parker, and Gibby followed them, without permission. The team didn't notice. It was easy to tell where the Iceman had walked. Trees were snapped in half, patches of grass were disturbed, and pools of water were frozen solid. The day was growing colder, so it would be even harder to beat the Iceman now. When they got closer and closer to the Iceman's location, the temperature got lower and lower. Even Phill, who liked the cold usually, began to feel uncomfortable. Travis took out his phone. "What's the temperature, Trav?" asked JoJo. Travis clicked on his weather app. He looked astounded. "It's negative 20 degrees!
We're supposed to be dead!"
That was unnatural, as the day had been so hot before. What was even stranger was that the area around where they were standing was still relatively warm. The Iceman seemed to be causing the drop in temperature. The team reached a cave. It was negative 35 degrees.
Oh yeah, we're dead.
Bobby and his team stared into it, trying to spot the Iceman. They couldn't see anything. It was too dark. "Stay quiet," JoJo whispered. The rest of the team nodded in agreement. Just then, they heard a stampede of footsteps coming up behind them. That's the whole chapter. That was a short one. Wasn't much of a trek through the woods. Kind of just, we entered the woods and then that was it.
Boy, it's negative 35.
It should have been called Chapter 8, We're All Dead.
I mean, we're just wearing normal clothes and it's negative 35.
Okay, Chapter 9 looks like it's also very short, and it's called If You Let Bryce on the Team, and then that's it. So it's half of a sentence is the name of the chapter. Trevor, Parker, and Gibby came running out of fear. "Whoa, what are you guys doing here?" Phill asked. "Well, we kind of followed you here, and then we heard footsteps and growling, so we ran for our lives," Trevor explained. JoJo looked disappointed. "Why'd you follow us here?" Trevor, Parker, and Gibby whispered to each other. until they decided on something to say. Then Parker spoke up. "We can help you. I know you made this 5-person super team, but you can't do this alone. I mean, if you let Bryce on the team, then surely we can be on it too." "Mm-hmm," Gibby said. "That's our mascot." JoJo was ready to object, but he couldn't argue with the Bryce thing. He had no choice but to let them help. "You said you heard growling?" asked Travis. Gibby's eyes lit up. "Yeah, man. It wasn't like a bear growl either. It was crazy. It sounded like a mix between a beast and a machine. A battle cry of sorts." As odd as this description was, it was obviously some sort of threat. Before anyone had time to guess what it was, more footsteps came up from behind. This time, however, it wasn't anyone they recognized. It was more ice beasts. The Iceman has a posse now.
Oh no.
He's got a whole group of ice beasts. And that brings us to our final chapter. So I guess it's got to wrap up pretty quickly. Final chapter is called Lies. It's got to be lies. One of the ice beasts looked like he was still young, but he was giving the team a death stare.
Oh no.
One was feminine in appearance, but it was still unclear whether it was a girl or not. The third was huge, even bigger than the Iceman. He was holding 2 large clubs, and could have easily crushed the entire team with one hit. But he didn't. Instead, he spoke in English. His voice was loud and booming, yet somehow calming as well. "We have come for what is ours, and you shall hand it over to us or face the consequences." The team stared up at him. No one felt worthy to respond. The ice beast started to look angry, but before he could do anything, the Iceman stepped out of a nearby cave. The ice beast looked amazed. Then he said, "So, you're safe. I can't believe it. We thought you were gone." The Iceman tilted his head in confusion. The ice beast realized he didn't understand English, so he spoke in a strange muffled voice. The Iceman understood this time. He walked over to the ice beasts. One of them hugged him. Then they all started to walk off. Gibby stopped them. "What? You can't leave yet. What happened? What's going on?" The ice beast laughed. Then he looked down at the team and said, "We are a race of creatures from the planet Neptune. It's so cold there, our bodies became encased in some sort of eternal ice. Our son here, who you call the Iceman, he was a baby when he began to freeze. We were afraid he was going to die from the cold, so we sent him to your warmer planet. Looks like he froze anyway, but hey, at least he's okay." JoJo couldn't believe what he was hearing. It was too stupid to be true. After the ice beasts had walked off, he turned around to face the rest of the team. After hesitating for a little bit, he said, "Come on, you don't believe that, do you? You know what that is. It's lies. It's gotta be lies." "It's lies, right?" No one answered. No one knew. It sounded fake, but what does mankind know about Neptune? Almost nothing. So everyone kept their mouth shut. JoJo started a new blog about the Iceman after that. He included all the information he knew, and someone commented almost immediately. It was a comment from, oddly enough, someone by the name of AaronFan420. He posted the same comment he had posted on Aaron's blog years ago. This led JoJo to believe that AaronFan420 was an ice beast himself. He shared this theory with the rest of the team and was laughed at, but truthfully no one could prove him wrong. The team of 8 decided to name themselves Team Iceman. They would get together and search for new creatures to hunt every week. Sadly, they never found anything else. Maybe one day they would find another creature, but for now, the Iceman was their only claim to fame. That is the Iceman.
Well, it's got some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Turns out they were from Neptune.
Yeah, I do like that the wording of the explanation at the end is exactly the same as the wording in the dude's blog. That's good. The only thing that would have been funnier is if he actually would have been Billy Ray Cyrus, but I don't know how you'd been able to explain that, because we've already seen the Iceman multiple times at that point. We know he's not Billy Ray Cyrus. But, yeah, of all the stories I wrote when I was young, this is probably one of the better ones. Maybe not in terms of how, yeah, it wouldn't be a successful story if I sold it, but it's entertaining to read. Especially once you forget most of it like I did, and then you hear it again for the first time, and remember all the stupid stuff you wrote. I wish I still had access to the other Iceman stories that my uncle and I had written to each other back and forth, because I'm sure they were even crazier. The only thing I remember about them was, at the beginning of this story, it was mentioned that Bryce's dog, Rome, got his hair caught in a fan, which is a very random thing to say. But I remember that was a running gag in every Iceman story. His dog Rome always gets his hair caught in a fan, which is very weird. But that's all I can tell you about the other Iceman stories. I think in one of them we were locked in a refrigerator, which is why I mentioned that he locks people in refrigerators. But yeah, this was the longest and most successful of any Iceman story that was written. All the other ones are very short and didn't have much of anything. I tried to write a sequel also, I remember, at some point, but it did not get very far. It was something about Team Iceman hunting ghosts, which sounds cool, but it ended pretty quickly. But that is the Iceman. Hopefully one day I'll find some other story from my past, or just from some weird story online or something that I feel is worth reading. We can have another story time, because it is fun to read these absolutely ridiculous stories. But as for now, you'll have to hear a tiny little mini story from our good friend that I assume won't be about an Iceman from Neptune.
There once was a man named Travis, who was a really cool guy. Much cooler than another guy named Phill. Yes, I liked that Travis guy quite a bit. The end.